Japanese have an excellent proverb that says this: you have three faces. The first face, you show to the whole world. The second face, you show to your friends and family. The third face, you don't show to anyone. Why? Is because it's the truest reflection of who you really are. Let's talk about it. Here we go. You have reached the I'm Dealing With broadcast. I'm Shon, your host. Stay tuned as we talk about an interesting topic today. Ready? Let's go. Well, today we're going to talk about courage. Today we're talking about courage. I'm Shon, your host. Welcome to another edition of the I'm Dealing With broadcast. I like to call IDW. And we're going to be talking about this thing called courage. You know, last week we talked about the fathers. Man, we went in, didn't we? We did talk about the fathers. You know, great impact on that. But today we're going to talk about courage, because whether you're a father or not, man, it takes tremendous courage to really walk this life out. It takes tremendous courage. When you look at the climate right now that's going on today and all over the world with COVID-19, the job layoffs and all the different things, it takes tremendous courage. There's a lot of people who are struggling in this climate with work-related issues, home-related issues. Oh, yeah, let's talk about the home-related issues with those who are losing their homes, you know, because the rent is getting so high they can't pay it, because they're laid off, because they're furloughed, because of all these different things. You know, jobs have, disappeared. People have moved. So a lot of people are losing homes. And then on top of that is what's happening is a lot of the grace period that happened with the rental market, that grace period's gone. So now all these people who have invested in these homes, that now own these homes, they are evicting the renters because the renters can't pay. So there's a lot going on. So it takes some serious courage to, live in our current climate. It's a crazy climate right now. And for men, you have to be able to man up. You have to be able to stand up, stick your chest out and say, I can make it. This too shall pass. This is only for a moment in time. However, we know the way we used to live is we're not going back to that anymore. The way we used to watch TV, the way we used to, the internet, the way you used to have meetings. As you notice, look how much Zoom has picked up. I mean, they talked about 75% plus increase, if not more, since this whole COVID has really kicked off. So a lot of jobs have been doing a lot of their interviews, a lot of their screening, staff meetings via Zoom. What was it, last month or whatever that was, when Zoom went down for about an hour or so? That was crazy. Reason being is because it was just too much traffic. And then you've got the internet providers just struggling to keep up with the bandwidth, because there's so many people because they're at home now, so much so that you have all these people that have to upgrade their internet, have a faster internet, whatever the case may be, that's really slowing down. I mean, it's just what it is, and it's just hiking up the traffic. So it takes tremendous courage to live in this environment, especially where we are. If you think about everything that you're going through right now, and each one of you have your own respective problems that you're dealing with, even in your own home, let alone even within yourself. Maybe you are out of work. Maybe you are struggling. Maybe you're having relationship problems or whatever the case may be. So even when you think about it from that standpoint, just for yourself, imagine what the world is going through as a whole, not just as an individual, but as a whole unit, as a whole body, what everyone is going through. I mean, now understand, not everyone is struggling, because there's a lot of people who are making out like bandits right now because They usually wait for an economy like this to invest. They wait for people to lose stuff in order for them to buy it up. They wait for business to go down so they can come in and get products cheap. To all these different things. This is just what a lot of people do. So not everyone is struggling. Some people are making money hand over fist. For instance, look at your Walmart and your Target right now, your Walmart and Target. They have made so much money in this economy while other businesses are struggling. I wonder why that is. Well, let's talk about that courage there, because it takes courage to actually say, you know what, let me prepare for the inevitable. Because we all know that, change happens, change comes. That's a given. And no matter what you go through in life, change is going to happen. And if you don't prepare for that change, what happens is when that change comes, you become what is called the dinosaur. And we all know what happened to the dinosaurs, right? They become extinct because they're not ready for the change, not ready for the climate change. And what happens is with these businesses, many of them were stuck on the way they've always done business, through referrals, through yellow pages, through black, through the black and white pages, whatever the case may be there. And some of them didn't operate and adopt the new technology. Whereas you had your Walmart and your Targets, all of a sudden they were doing drive up pickup and order online and come pick it up in the store. And we'll bring the bags out to you in the car and all. And they were doing that before this whole COVID kicked off. So by the time the COVID kicked off and people couldn't go to the store, guess who was already operating with, hey, order it and you could drop it off and we'll bring it to you in the parking lot. Who was doing that? Walmart and Target. Crazy, right? So now they're making money hand over fist. Meanwhile, other stores are closing shop because they were banking on people always coming into the stores. And on top of that, because they had such an infrastructure and so much clothing and so much merchandise and overhead inside the stores sitting there during the COVID, if no one's coming in the stores buying it and your stuff is just sitting there, guess what? You're paying money for stuff that you're not even selling. So what's happening is you go through months and months on end paying for stuff that you haven't even sold. So you're not making any money at all. Matter of fact, you're losing money because as long as you're paying it out and nothing's coming in, you're really losing money. And most stores, they have their rent or their lease or whatever the case may be that they have to pay for. And if you can't pay for it, or if you're paying for that and you're not selling anything to make up for what you're dishing out, it's a lose-lose situation. So here it is, you have these losses within businesses because they're losing. They're paying for their infrastructure. They're paying for their buildings. They're paying for their security. They're paying for all these things. But yet and still, they have nothing going out nothing coming in as far as monetary wise. So they are losing money. So in this economy, you have to think to yourself as a man in your home, and you think maybe you're the business owner that have lost their business. Maybe you're the guy who has been an entrepreneur and your business was washing windows or janitorial service of some of these buildings and these businesses that are no longer around. What do you do? And it's tough because you have to be courageous. You have to be tenacious. You have to be encouraged. You have to hold your head up and understand and say to yourself, I've got to do something different. I've got to bring income in. I've got to move forward. I've got to move farther, faster. And you've got to figure out how to do that. There's been many people who have actually changed the way they try to bring in money into their home. Some of them gone back to some of the stuff they did as kids. Some people are, they've gone as far as recycling, collecting cans and bottles and stuff like that. Some are buying low and selling high. For instance, Craigslist. Some are on Facebook Marketplace. They're on, whatever the app is called. They're on that. They're on Let Go. They're on all these different apps, to try to find merchandise to get rid of. They'll find something cheap and sell it for double, quadruple, whatever the case may be. It happens. And a lot of people are doing whatever it is to make ends meet. And you have to be to a point to where it's not about what people think about me anymore. It's not about me being the CFO or or I was a CEO or I was a this, that, and the other. Now you have to figure out, where do I go from here? And regardless of what the perception of people are, because, people are always going to have these preconceived notions about who they think you are, or who they think you should be, when in actuality, you need to be the man that you're supposed to be, regardless of what your position is. The goal is to live, not just live for now, but to live indefinitely, to live as though you're happy with, maybe you might happy with the circumstances, but you're happy with the decisions you've had to make in order to make it. Because if you look at the businesses that are gone, they didn't adjust in time. And some of them started adjusting, but by the time they realized that they need to adjust, it was already too late. The writing was on the wall. They were already going up the creek without a paddle, right? And it happens to the best of us. And if we as men don't become courageous and tenacious and try to find ways of doing something different in order to make things happen for ourselves, for our children, for our families, for things that we want to do later on down the line, if we start just thinking just for the now, instead of thinking about tomorrow and the next day and the next year, if you're only thinking about today, and there's so many of us that only think about, well, I need money right now. Okay, what about tomorrow? What about next week? What about the week after that? What about the following month? You have to think about not just now, but also down the line, a year from now, 5 years from now, whatever that is, because the economy is probably not going to restabilize back to the place it used to be or close to where it was until about a year or so from now. This is just what it is. If you read the news, if you look at the news, if you listen to the news and you listen to the reports of what's going on, oh, I know we serve a great God. I get all that. I get it. But I don't want you to be so much so to where, it's there's a lot of people that go, they're waiting on God to do stuff, and that's fine. We don't want to be so much so to where we're to the point to where we're waiting on God that we don't do anything for ourselves as well. It's like looking for a job. You can't say that, I'm waiting for God to give me a job, or I'm waiting on God to bless me with a job, but then you want to put in an application. You won't go and apply. You won't update your resume. You won't do a letter or anything like that. So how are you going to ask God to bless you with something and you won't even, take inventory of yourself and try to do something on your own, because God will bless what you do. It's one thing for you to get out there and you're doing all that you can as much as possible to land that job, to land that next business, to land that next subscriber, to land that next donation, to land that next grant. It's one thing for you to do all that you can. And then you're saying, well, I need God to open the door. I get it. But when you haven't done anything for yourself, you ain't even tried, but then you're going to sit there and say, I'm waiting on God. You need to be courageous enough to understand that you have to do something. You have to. Because as I spoke earlier with the Japanese proverb, it says, the first face you show to the world. We put up a good front. We do as men. We put up a good front and, boom, boom, yeah, shake, rattle, and roll, right? Because that's what we put up to the whole world. And then when we're behind closed doors, we have a different face for our close friends and family because they know us pretty well. But then as it talks about earlier, the third face, we don't even show it all. Why? It's because it's the reality of who we really are. Because you need to be courageous and understand when you know who you really are. You know your uprisings, your downsettings. You know what you're strong at, what you're weak at. You know what you're great at, what you excel at, and also what you can probably say, you fell at or needs improvement. It's just what that is. But you have to understand that in order to be courageous, in order to have courage, in order to move forward in this economy, You need to do all you can, whether it's in finance, your finances, whether it's in your home, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your relationships with your children, maybe your husband, your wife, your girlfriend, your mother, father, sister, brother, whatever that is. Maybe it's in your professional relationships. It takes courage, because when you're really courageous, you have to be able to deal with conflict as well, because a lot of times we as men also avoid conflict because we don't want to, unless you're, some people are really a jerk, and they cause conflict. And then there's some of us who believe in what is called conflict resolution, to where we know how to deal with the conflict and resolve it and get past it, get over it, move on, discuss it, come up with resolutions, come up with the reasons, come up with solutions of how to resolve the problem. And this is where courage comes into play, because when you look at where you are, there's a conflict going on. You can't sit behind closed doors and just relax. You just can't just let it go. You just can't just allow it just to fester. You just can't allow bad relationships just to keep on going and this, that, and the other, and say whatever comes to mind. You just can't just get on social media and just start blasting folk and giving them a piece of your mind, because the truth be told, you don't have a piece of your mind to give them, because you need all your mind. You need all your mind. You need all your body. You need all your soul. You need all of it in order to make it in this world. You need all of it. And you can't give somebody a piece and, try to, as, the movie Set It Off. I'm going to set it off up in here. I'm sorry. You can't do that. You just can't, say a whole lot of stuff that makes no sense. You just can't be going off, because that's just what it is. You just can't do those things. You have to be the type of person who's going to do what is right. And in order to do that, you must be courageous. You must be a man of integrity. You must always try to do the right thing, even when people think it's wrong for you to do it. And you must do the right thing, even when you're around people who are just wrong. Somebody's got to stand up. Somebody's got to say, that's wrong. Somebody's got to say enough's enough. And if you don't do it, who will? Because everybody, at some point in time, they're waiting on you. I'm Shon, your host. Sure hope you enjoyed this broadcast. Stay tuned for another episode of I'm Dealing With. Be blessed.